Welcome back to the Chosen Journey with Big Money Grip Steve Karsay and Jonathan, the Chosen Lawyer. Christmas has come early for all of us today. We got a special taping, a special show. We get not only one, but two former Major League superstars. We're honored to have today with us as our guest, Mr. Karim Garcia. Karim, welcome to the Chosen Journey.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
So
Yeah, thanks for being here. This is special. It's really good to see you. It's been a long time.
I know it's good to see you too, my friend.
So we can call this a chosen journey, but sometimes it becomes Steve Karsay, this is your life. And you two played on not one, but two Major League Baseball teams in Cleveland and with the Yankees. How many years has it been since the two of you have seen each other?
I want to say probably since 2003, 2004, around that time, because after that I went to Japan and then I went to Korea. So I spent another 10 years playing in Asia. So I want to say about that time. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. It's been about 20 years since we've connected, talked to each other, and obviously now sitting here with you and walking through some baseball stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this is part of where we were discussing and we brainstormed this docu series. Kareem and Steve wanted to call it the Chosen Journey, and that it wasn't going to be just Steve's life, but also the lives of the guests and the stories we talk about. And we're going to jump into many parts today. We're going to be discussing your reunion and playing together in New York and Cleveland. We're going to jump into the life and times of Kareem Garcia because Kareem, you are a baseball lifer, and I was a big fan watching you throughout the years, and you always played the game really, really hard. And you played across many continents. It'll be interesting to go into that, as well as the WBC, which is coming up, and you being a WBC legend. But first and foremost, folks, Cleveland and New York. So when did you first two meet each other? I believe it was in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. And tell us a little bit about times playing together.
No, it was very fun. I think one of the times that I enjoy most playing baseball in the major leagues was with the teams with Cleveland because it was a mixture of veterans with younger guys that were coming up to the league and they were really, trying to help each other, win games, make it to the playoff. Um, versus New York when you know that every one of them gotta be an all-star, you have to, not only play 110% and the media is all over you all the time. But in Cleveland, it was more relaxed. Everybody's having fun. Um, if you invited a couple guys to the house, they show up 10, 20, 15 guys, to your house. Well, if you do that or try to do that with the Yankees, you say, hey, I got to get together on my house on Sunday after the game. If two guys showed up, three guys showed up, it'd be amazing, because it's different. It's a different culture, different things. For me, that's what I live and what I had when I play there.
Yeah, I would agree. Like you go back and you look at those two teams and the types of guys that are on those teams and Kareem touched on it. Smaller market in Cleveland, guys playing for each other, guys wanting to win and just a loose atmosphere as opposed to New York where he said, you are expected to win. Obviously, there's great talent on both teams, but it's just a different culture in how we went about things. Obviously, me being on the pitching side, Kareem being on the hitting side, the collaboration or hanging out with each other is a little bit different because hitters hang out with hitters, pitchers hang out with pitchers mostly. No matter where you're at, whether it's with the Yankees, Cleveland, or any other team. So, the interaction is there, but when you're on the field, it's a whole different situation as you play together as a team. So, I think he put it perfectly. I just think that both teams were great, right? I mean, there was talented players all over the field, and the atmosphere might be a little bit different in both, as Kareem said, where the unity is one in Cleveland was a little bit tighter than what it was with the Yankees because there's so many guys. Yankees, where you live, guys lived in Jersey, guys lived in Queens, guys lived in Manhattan. So it just took time to get to places where in Cleveland, everybody lived 15, 20 minutes apart, and it was very easy to get to each other's house to, to bond and develop that unity as a team.
Absolutely. I mean, I live in Connecticut when I was playing with the Yankees. Imagine. It took me 35 minutes just to get there every single day.
Well, on a former episode, we talked about it. Steve was living in the towers with Derek Jeter there and bumping into Harrison Ford on the elevator. So that was it's a different life. I gotta ask you, Kareem, if you walked down the street and saw this T-shirt,
the Chosen Journey, yes, your program, yeah.
Would you recognize Steve Karsay immediately from the caricature?
Of course, it's a lineup right there.
That's right. So I want to ask you first. Your time playing together. What's your fondest memory, or what memory do you have of Steve Karsay when you guys were on the field together?
I can remember very well. He was always really nice, always trying to help the guys, the younger guys. And like he mentioned, sometimes, pitchers stay on their side, the hitters will stay on our side, but he always, talked to everyone, would play. I want to say a couple times golf, during the tournaments that they do in the spring training with Cleveland. And to tell you, I mean, he's just a really, really nice guy. Always tried to help people. He was the youngest, but a veteran at that time. You know what I'm saying? And it was really fun. And it was more fun when I saw him with the Yankees too, because I was getting traded over there. I didn't know anyone, so it made it a little easier for me too.
And same question for you, Steve. Your impressions, remembering fond memories of Kareem when you guys played together.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in baseball for such a long time, right? He's traveled all over the place. You don't do that without being a great teammate. You don't be able to join teams, whether it's on this continent or, playing in the States or Mexico, Korea, Japan, wherever you're playing, you don't fit in if you're not a great teammate. And that's what I remember. Not only a great teammate, but a great competitor. Every time he stepped on the field, in my eyes, he wanted to win. He played hard, played the game to win. Whoever he was playing behind, it was 100% on every play. And when he stepped in the box, he wanted to do damage. So, those are the things that you kind of just sit back and see from afar as you're watching hitters or your teammates play. And you just gain the utmost respect for the way he played the game overall.
I gotta say, I spent a Sunday, and I spent literally the whole day researching Kareem and having watched him play, seeing him live many times, including WBC. Always felt he was a very hard-nosed player. We're gonna get into WBC later because to me, he was a WBC legend. Like when he stepped it up even another level when he was putting on the Mexican jersey. It was just fascinating to me to watch. But together when you were in New York, a few things came out which was pretty interesting. First of all, the movie Moneyball, of course, and you've seen it. You know the reference, Kareem, of course.
Of course, I do.
So he does.
Mr. Shapiro say no on the trade for me to Oakland. Yeah.
So
they send Ricardo Rincon there.
Yep.
I'm not going to try to pronounce it the same way. To us, he's Ricardo Rincon, but. Steve getting traded to Oakland from Toronto. There's the rookie card back there, finding his way to Oakland. You almost found your way to Oakland, but apparently $200,000 and Guthrie did not make it happen. But I mean, that's pretty neat. You think about it. It's a landmark movie, right? Always going to be part of the folklore as far as baseball and how baseball changed. And when people go back to watch it, they're always going to know Garcia, and that was you. So that's one, I think, really neat memory. When you first realized that reference, were you watching the movie or was it mentioned to you after the fact, Kareem?
No, I was watching the movie and then I thought about it. It's like, oh, that was me, by the way. Ricardo and I, we would have went together to Oakland at that time. I was like, yeah. He ended up going to the team that won, I think, the 20 games on a road, something like that. That was pretty fun. Miguel Tejada was there. They got a lot of, mixture of good players on that team. But I mean, they played the first playoff, and unfortunately, they lost. But it was fun to watch the movie.
Did you ever think about it after watching that? What would have happened if I would have gone on that Oakland team?
I was glad that they didn't trade me. And I tell you why, because I was so happy playing in Cleveland with a guy that the core that we have over there, like I say, a lot of young guys that were coming up, a lot of veteran guys that they were unselfish. They tried to help you, in the outfield. Just talking about my perspective, when I have a Juan Gonzalez, Ellis Burks, Kenny Lofton, those guys, the all stars, and instead of being, by themselves, if I go and talk to them and ask them about hitting, fielding, they were always open to help me, to tell me where to play different players and how to react to certain situations in the game. Because I always was asking questions, because you never stop learning on this game. And you got to learn from the best. And those guys were the best at the moment.
And that's where I say, I always go back to the memory bank because I remembered vividly. I believe I was driving the car at the time when Steve actually left Cleveland, when he got traded at the time to Atlanta for, I don't know if you remember his name, John Rocker, ring a bell?
Yes, the lefty. Yeah, a little crazy.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know. I don't know if you and John would have gotten along, Kareem, to be honest. Not sure if you were his cup of tea and vice versa, but
probably not. I mean, we say hello in the clubhouse, but he kept to himself, which is pretty good.
So you were actually in the clubhouse with John after Steve had left.
Yes, I did. I was there.
And because Steve talked about his side of the story when he came to Atlanta and he first stepped into the clubhouse. Steve, what was their reaction? What did they first say to you when you stepped in for the first time to the Atlanta clubhouse?
Yeah, so when I got traded from Cleveland, we were in Kansas City at the time, and we had just obviously finished a game and got the news after the game, and then got back to the hotel, leaving the next morning to go to New York, to Shea Stadium to meet the Atlanta Braves. Walk into the clubhouse to drop my bags off in old Met Stadium, which was Shea. As I put my bags there, Maddox was to the left of me, Smoltz was to the right of me, and when I dropped my bags, the first thing they said, and I didn't know them from Adam at that time, I never met them. They're like, "We are so glad to see you," and that was like everything that they needed to say to get me to understand, hey, you're welcome here. It's good to have you. Let's get to business.
So I got to ask you the reverse now, Kareem. John Rocker comes into the Cleveland clubhouse. Did they put like emergency police tape everywhere and section him off his own part of the clubhouse? Or what was it like, the atmosphere there when John came in?
I want to say it was a little tense for the bullpen guys more than anything else, but they put him on a corner where usually you put the catchers. They put him on a big locker on the corner, by himself, and whoever was close to him, if he say hello, depending on the mood of that day, he will say hello or not. It's one of those guys that you just let him alone, and if he says hi to you, you say hi back, or if you say hi, he doesn't say anything. You're like, okay, whatever.
Well, clubhouse guys are good like that. They really know and feel the pulse of the clubhouse and get an understanding of the players, who they want to put next to each other. It's not always infielders, pitchers, and pitchers. They kind of mix and match and try to keep the guys who want to be private in a little bit more area. And, it's a tough job by the clubhouse guys, but they do a good job with that to try to keep the harmony within the clubhouse.
Yes, absolutely.
And I figured we're going to talk more about the Cleveland side because you played more together, because Steve was injured in 2003 when Kareem was with the Yankees. You were technically teammates, but not around each other that much. There's a couple items I wanted to bring up. You knew I'm going to. So first of all, Steve, memories you can remember for 2003 as far as how much time you spent around the team at around that point and around Kareem, and what was your schedule like in that 2003 season?
Yeah, for me, I was there. We were together in spring training. I mean, obviously, a lot of players. Spring training complex a little bit more light. And then towards the end of spring training, that's kind of where my shoulder started bothering me and doing that. I remember, if I remember correctly, the team went to Japan, I believe, on a flight to play a couple games over there for spring training, or at the end of spring training. Obviously, I didn't make that because of my shoulder, and then ended up staying in the great state of Florida to rehab and get back before having surgery.
And as far as the playoffs go that season, were you around the team around the playoffs or still rehabbing at that point?
No, I was still rehabbing. I had shoulder surgery in, I think it was May or June of 2003, and was preparing to get ready for 2004.
So both of us are watching on TV as Karim is headed to the playoffs. That's first and only time into the playoffs. And Karim, both of you should have gotten a World Series ring that year. That was the team.
I
That was the
know.
magical team. What the heck happened? How did the Marlins pull it off that year?
Uh, for what I my feeling is, we went one game, win, one loss, 1-1 on the World Series against the Marlins, and game three supposed to start David Wells. So he goes and throws the first inning, 1, 2, 3, 9 pitches, 3 outs, really easy inning. Next inning, when he needs to get back to pitch again, he goes, "My low back is killing me," and I was like, "Oh my god."
Mm.
We're gonna say something before the game, get a shot, whatever you need to do to be ready. This is the World Series. This is not a playoff game. This is not a season. This is the World Series. You should have said something. So it got everyone unprepared, including our manager Joe Torre. So he brings Jose Contreras, from the bullpen and start warming up in the mound. So imagine the stress of Contreras start getting ready on a World Series game that he never supposed to be on that day. Never went to his head. Of course, we lost the game. We won the next one. We lost the next one. I mean, everything changed right there. If we won that game, we probably would have won the World Series. But that's to me what happened.
And the energy of being in the World Series. Like you've spent 24 years playing professional baseball across all the continents you did, hit over 500 home runs. But how does that compare to actually getting an at bat, being in the World Series? Tell us.
It's like a dream come true. At the moment, you don't feel it because I was so concentrated on the game, on getting on base, on helping the team in any way I could, that I knew it was the World Series. I know that that's what I always dream. But I don't reflect until after I finished the series and we lost. I say, "Oh my God, I did play in the World Series. I did get in at bats. I did get some hits. I did, some stuff." So I was glad. But at that moment, I can tell you right now, I was concentrated on what I was doing.
I've had other people tell me before when they experience it that you're there, you figure you'll be back again one day. At the time, did you think in your head this could have been the only time I'll be in here, or did you assume or hope that you'd be back?
As a player, I knew that was my only chance to be in the World Series and to have a chance to win it. To tell you the truth, I played in different teams with the Dodgers. Back in the 1995 when I got to the big leagues, and they went to the playoff. They didn't do anything. Well, the Dodgers took forever to win another World Series. So I was with Cleveland, great teams over there too. They make it to the playoff. Nothing happened there, and finally with the Yankees, they got the opportunity to go to the World Series after 7 really intense games against Boston. So
And I gotta ask Steve the same question. We've talked about this, how great teams can be, and still you don't even get a sniff. When your team makes it to the World Series and your health doesn't allow you to be there, what was going through your mind that year in 2003?
Yeah, it was really tough. I mean, obviously my first year with the Yankees was 2002, and we got bounced in the playoffs in the first round to the Angels, who ended up winning the World Series that year. We had a great team. I knew coming back in 2003, we were going to have as good or a better team than we had. So, for me, it was heartbreaking. I didn't know where I was at that point in my career. I had shoulder surgery. Whenever you have shoulder surgery, it's really tough. I was getting older at that point, and rehab was becoming a little bit tougher. But the determination was there to get back and play again and try to get as far. You know, the way I look at it is it's all about being in the right place at the right time. It's all about timing. There are certain guys who get the opportunity to play in World Series because they're on one team, then they get picked up or traded to a team that's in first place, and then they ride that wave to get to the World Series or to the playoffs because of that. But unfortunately for me, throughout my career, I played from the minor leagues all the way through the end of my career, about 17 years. And 2003 would have been the only chance for me to get to a World Series as a player on a team, and I was injured. I got as far as the NLCS in 2001, and that was a tremendous honor and a great time to play in that with the Atlanta Braves. But you just never know. As Karim had said, you don't know if you're ever going to get back to a World Series, if you're ever going to get to a World Series. I never got to one. Karim has got to one and got to play in it, which is extremely special. And you get to reflect on all of the memories and all of the things that you don't get to reflect on when you're in the moment, because there's a job at hand and you're competing and you want to do the best for your team as possible. So, guys who are playing these days, again, it's about being in the right place at the right time and having the opportunity to experience those memories. And you got to grasp onto it when you can.
And that's where I give you both a lot of credit, because the truth of the matter is, for the amount of years you both put into this game, you don't do that for the money. You do it because you truly love baseball, because you truly admire the sport and want to be a part of it as a player, as a coach. And you both have given so much of your life to baseball, to the fans, to the younger players. And I commend you both on what you've contributed to the baseball folklore and history. You've both contributed to it greatly. And as we're summing up that Yankees team and this portion of, playing together, I got to ask you, Steve, first, you're watching on TV and we can't mention that year and can't mention the playoffs, Kareem, without mentioning that famous brawl. Steve, when you saw that went down with Pedro and Kareem and then Roger Clemens and then Don Zimmer, what was your reaction watching that game?
My reaction was, it's expected. Like, if you go back, I grew up in New York, so I got to watch all of the Yankees Red Sox series on TV or go to a game at Yankee Stadium to see, how that rivalry transpired. And every year that they played against each other, I mean, obviously the one that I remember the most is the Bucky Dent home run over the Green Monster, to secure the playoff spot and to beat out the Red Sox. They've always had this, this rivalry of Boston, New York. It doesn't matter what sport it is, right? And in baseball, it just gets heightened because you're in the same division and you're playing so many games against each other. And it just becomes kind of nasty, right? I mean, that's just the way it's transpired. So for me, when I saw that happen, you could feel things building, and Kareem could probably speak more in depth to this because he was actually there and from the start of the season in April, and I'm sure that they played some games in April that kind of, April and May, that kind of, some things probably happened that kind of just built up until they were in Boston, and Veritek and all of that with A-Rod and with Kareem. So was I surprised? No, I wasn't surprised. And then as you're watching it, you say, okay, this is a little bit it's a little bit nastier than what you would expect when teams come together. But again, it's not surprising, but it's one of those things where two teams just don't like each other and are playing in the same division, and the competition just becomes to the level of until it boils over.
So Kareem, you being there, you saw it from beginning to end. I'm sure you can picture it like it was yesterday. I've always wanted to ask you your side of the story of this whole transpiration with the brawls, etc. And you're gonna get to talk about two brawls today, by the way. So being a hard-nosed player, grinding everywhere, there's multiple brawls, so there'll be a second brawl coming. But brawl number one, let's hear your side of the tale when you're at Thanksgiving or Christmas and people inevitably ask you, what do you tell them about the famous Red Sox Yankees brawl, please?
They actually ask me all the time, to tell you the truth. and the truth of the matter is that my first at bat against Roger Clemens, men on first and third, 1 out. I got against Pedro Martinez. I'm
Pedro.
sorry,
Yeah.
against Pedro. I got a base hit, so we went ahead 1-0 at the score at that moment. And then when my second at bat comes around, I got man on second and third, one out. So I understand that if you don't want to walk me because you're Pedro Martinez at that moment, if you're gonna hit me from my shoulder down. I'll take it every day, 24/7. I don't care. But when you come close to my head, now you're playing with my livelihood. Now you're playing with my career. That's what upset me. If you'd have hit me on my ribs, on my shoulder, I would have laughed about it and I would have walked to first base. We had no problems. But when you come to my head, that's a different story. And then by the time I react and I want to go at it, I got Baratek in front of me. So I knew I had no chance at that moment getting to Pedro. I did say a couple stuff in Spanish and English, just in case he didn't understand either or. And Marcus was the umpire at home plate. The Mexican, he goes, "Hey, please go to first base. Don't make a big deal." And I told him, "What do you mean a big deal? He just hit my back." And he goes, "Take it easy, go to first." So I ended up going to first base. But I was very, very upset, and I wasn't going to let it go at that moment. At that moment. So what happens next year is Wilson gets a ground ball to shortstop. So as a player, as an aggressive player that I was, I went at it. Believe me, I went to destroy Todd Walker on second base. And I said, I'm not proud of saying it, but I did at that moment. I went a spice high. I went up to his close to his knee. I wanted to take him out. I wanted to destroy him and start another ball right there. So I wanted Pedro. And I get up and he says something to me. I push him again and I was ready to go. So Joe West hold me back and say, take it easy, you know. And that's how it started. Now they get the 3 outs, and now Roger Clemens comes to pitch against Manny Ramirez. Which, come on, man, it was not even close. It was up and in, but not even close to his face. But Manny, being Manny, was scared, so he knew anything close was going to say something, so he can just get out of it. He did. Actually, he did. He escaped because Roger probably would have hit him. Because Roger and I and Andy Pettit would play golf all the time during the season, so I knew he was going to get him. But Manny started, yapping about it, and they hold him back, and that's what happened, and then of course Don Zimmer went to defend his players, and Pedro Martinez did the worst thing he can ever done, throw a 70-something-year-old man on the ground.
I gotta ask you, Kareem, that happens today, and a 77-year-old coach is thrown to the ground like that by a player. How long do you think he's suspended for at that point?
If any of the players wouldn't get it to the guy that threw him on the ground, because they would take care of him right there. At that moment, Pedro got lucky because there was a lot of Red Sox guys in there, but some of the other guys were really upset about that. And he was suspended probably half a year to a year. I mean, that's disrespectful. You don't do that to a man. You can move to the side. There's a lot of things that you can do. Someone is coming to you. He didn't do it.
I gotta ask you, Steve, because I was shocked when I saw that incident. I remember vividly watching it live and saying, "Did he just do that? Seriously?" And that's always going to leave a stain on his career. I mean, he, as great as Pedro was, and on the baseball field from his pitching point of view and what he accomplished, you always look back on that. When you saw that, what was your reaction?
Emotions are high, right? Yeah, emotions are high at that point. Like sometimes you're not even thinking of what's going on in the moment, and people are charging you, and you're trying to watch your back because you're not trying to, you don't want to get hit and blindsided from behind. Obviously, it's not his proudest moment, I would say, in something like that. I mean, obviously, it happened. He was trying to kind of protect himself a little bit, and I'm not judging or I'm not approving of what he did. He sidestepped him, grabbed him, and threw him to the ground. And it's completely understandable that these guys, because I would have been the same thing coming from the bullpen. And you see that, like, there's no reason for that to happen, right? I mean, as Kareem said, you can step to the side. He's not going to chase you down. Zimmer is not going to chase you down and grab you and start a fight with you at that point. I mean, he's an older gentleman and the bench coach, and he was as you could see, Zimmer was pissed, right? Zimmer was mad. Like he was a bull coming after him, and I think he wanted Pedro too. And the situation happened. I don't think anybody's proud of that. With what happened to Zimmer, fortunately, he didn't get too hurt. He had some bumps and bruises, and he was able to continue and do what he did for the years remaining.
Kareem, if that incident never happens, do you think that it changes at all the trajectory of your career? Do you think that at all teams look to you differently because of that incident, even though it really was not your fault?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it wasn't. I didn't start anything. I just tried to finish things. You know, you can instigate and then you can stop the instigation. You can stop. And what I tried to do is, once you started with me, then you gotta go at it, and that's what
Well,
I tried to do.
you did a great. I mean, again, you played the game hard. Played it smart.